And welcome to another episode of Ardent Cinema, the #1 podcast for a book club style discussion of all things movies. This is a weekly podcast, and we encourage you to follow along as we take a deep dive into each movie's plot, overall themes, what we thought of the acting and directing, our feelings on the film, and more. At the end of each episode, we will announce the movie for next week, so make sure to listen until the end. I am your Purgatorial host, Sean.
My God.
I am your assassin host, Danny.
Welcome to the show. Soy Alejandro de España, no hablo español. This week, we hope you watch along with us for In Bruges 2008.
Why did you murder someone, Raymond?
For money?
Who did you murder for money, Raymond?
You, father. After I killed them, I walked home to await instructions. Get to Bruges.
Bruges.
Bruges? Where's that?
It's in Belgium.
For 2 weeks? In Bruges? In a room like this? With you? No way.
You have a message?
Number one, why aren't you in when I fucking told you to be in? Number two, why doesn't this hotel have phones with fucking voicemail and not I have to leave messages with a fucking receptionist? Number three, you better fucking be in tomorrow night when I fucking call again or there'll be fucking hell to pay. I'm fucking telling you, Harry.
I've got an idea. I'm gonna go back to my room, jump into the canal, see if I can escape. If you go outside and round the corner, you can shoot at me from there and try and get me.
I'll go outside, then which way, right or left?
You go right, don't you?
Okay, on the count of 1, 2, 3, go.
You guys are crazy.
1, 2, 3, go!
Ray, you're about the worst tourist in the whole world. If I'd grown up on a farm and was retarded, Bruges might impress me, but I didn't, so it doesn't.
Written and directed by Martin McDonagh. Starring Colin Farrell as Ray, Ralph Fiennes as Harry, and Brendan Gleeson as Ken. Ken and Ray are hiding out in Bruges after Ray mistakenly popped an altar boy when he was supposed to just pop the priest. They don't know for how long they have to wait or why it has to be fucking Bruges. It's all a bit elaborate.
Pop, pop. Wow. Pop, pop.
Let's see. I'm going to start. It's a fairy tale movie with canals and bridges, the swans and all that.
The alcoves.
I just fucking loved it. Seriously, though, I found it to be the funniest film I've seen in a long time. I thought the writing was sharp as a tack and consistently smart. I was extremely impressed with the director's ability to keep everyone on the same page for his blend of dark humor and drama.
Yeah, I really liked it as well. I thought it was very funny, very well written. A beautiful showcase of Bruges itself. One of the things I thought after watching the movie was, I'd like to visit there one day.
All the Gothic castles and canals and the swans and all that, yeah.
And especially the alcoves.
Especially the
Can't forget
alcoves. Especially, yeah.
It's a fairy tale place.
So you could say that I was more on Ken's side mindset.
Sure, yeah.
As a matter of fact, I got a little bit mad at at Ray. I was like, man, how could you not like this place? It's really beautiful.
Do I have to?
It's Jesus' blood.
You don't have to. You don't have to.
So, yeah, I mean, it was definitely an interesting blend of dark comedy and drama that I haven't really experienced before. So I thought that was pretty interesting. And I found it interesting that you don't see the antagonist for over half the film.
Oh, I love this introduction.
Yeah, it was definitely unusual. Definitely different than any other film of its class.
How about you, Shawnee boy?
I loved it. It's actually one of my favorite films that we've watched so far, to be honest. Yeah, I can't really say any better than you guys. I guess the one thing I'll add to your guys' overall impressions is that I like the fact that this film is not very plot heavy. It's very character driven. Mm-hmm. And, you know, as I've been doing this podcast, I'm starting to realize like I'm enjoying more character driven movies than movies that are like have a central plot that the characters are following. You know, I like more of an exploration of characters and, you know, and how they would react in this case in Bruges, Belgium. So, yeah, I loved it.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like when I try to go back to the more typical movies, like, you know, like Marvel movies and things like that.
I guess American movies.
Or American movies that are out today.
Mm-hmm.
Now that I'm really seeing that contrast, I'm also realizing that like I'm loving the pacing of these kind of films a lot, and the character development. I connect with it emotionally much better.
Nice.
Definitely. You know, speaking of characters, what are your guys' thoughts on the idea that a location or a central location can be its own character in a film or TV show? for example, Parks and Recreation, the TV show, Pawnee was its own character. So do you think this is an accurate depiction of the role of a location in a film? What do you guys think?
For me, it comes into play when a location's culture or environment is affecting the story as much or more than the characters themselves. Yeah, I think that's the basic definition of it. What about you, Danny?
Yeah, I agree. A good example of that is actually Will Rider.
Right.
Like the location is really the setup for everything that's happening in the movie. It's a big part of the culture that drives the plot. So I think in Bruges, it doesn't do it quite as strongly as Whale Rider because it's not.
Well, because they're not from there, right?
They're not from there. It's not this 1,000-year-old tradition or anything like that. But in Bruges, kind of forces our character to kind of slow down from his typical way of living in Dublin, where it's all cities and parties and drinking and all that. I mean, he manages to still find it in Bruges because it's everywhere. Mm-hmm. But for the most part, he has to start. It allows him to kind of think inwardly about what he had done.
Well, he's trying to fight against that.
And he's trying to fight against it, which is kind of explains why in the very beginning he's so antsy. He doesn't want to be there because there's nothing to distract him from the fact that he accidentally killed a boy while he was trying to assassinating a priest that it was his job to do. So actually, I just thought of that now. I don't know. I didn't realize that while I was watching the movie. I just thought he was being a brat, which he was. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, it seems like it was he was trying to find a mental escape from the guilt that he had.
And they place him in a quiet, religious Belgium city, the last place on earth he wants to be during that time.
Definitely.
And it's so funny that Harry, the boss. Mm-hmm. When you find out the reason why they sent them there was because they were going to assassinate Ray because of the fact that he killed the kid on accident, because it goes against Harry's principles, and they sent them to Bruges just as a final little vacation, which ironically was the worst place they could have sent them for Ray's sake.
In Bruges? Why fucking Bruges? The Bahamas, maybe?
Suppose it's cheaper.
For sure. As you guys are talking about it, I couldn't help but think about Be Kind Rewind, film we watched not that long ago, and how Passaic, New Jersey is like the setting of that film. And yet, I remember you guys talking about that coupled with the Fats Waller imagery and, references didn't really do it for you guys. So what about this film made it feel like the location was more important and it relevant to like the movie itself than Passaic, New Jersey was for Be Kind Rewind?
The difference for me was that in Be Kind Rewind, I felt like it was insisting that it was a character, but the characters themselves in the movie didn't feel like inner city people, so it didn't seem like they had that influence from Passaic, New Jersey. But the whole time, the movie is telling you how important Passaic, New Jersey is without necessarily reflecting it on the characters themselves.
Do you think that's because you have more of a point of reference for like a standard American city, so you have some idea of what that should be and what people from there should look like? Or
can't deny that.
Or act, as opposed to Bruges is very much like an idyllic fairy tale place, so it's much easier to get entrenched in that idea.
That's how I would put it. Yeah.
I could agree with that as well. And just overall being able to see a city like that, that is it's much more exotic to me as well. So that just visually speaking, I enjoyed it much more than Be Kind Rewind.
It can't be denied that the movie is not made for people in Bruges. It's a small location. It's made for foreigners, so it's displaying it from the perspective of a foreigner, so it matches up.
Yeah. True.
Oh, yeah.
Though someone from in Bruges could really appreciate it. I mean, they're proud of their city and it's being showcased in this film.
No doubt. But if only the people in Bruges watched it, it would be a failure of a movie. It's not that big a place.
Very true. Very true. Yeah, it really lends to like the fairy tale nature of the film. And like everything about the film, I think, really lends itself to this being like not quite our reality, but maybe close to it. Mm-hmm. Just like a slight deviation in that like universe, basically, and you have that film now.
The music and narration really set it up as that right from the start.
Dude, the music, I don't know if we want to just jump into the music now.
Well, the movie starts with this, so we might as well.
Yeah. The music reminded me of older Japanese role-playing games and like town music. Whenever you enter a new town, it's like very exotic music. It's a lot of fanfare usually, if the town is, you know, supposed to be kind of idyllic or at the very least like normal. It really hit me with a little bit of nostalgia in that case. Maybe that's part of the reason why I like the film more, because I started feeling that a little bit. But it was a very happy surprise to hear that, and like, oh my goodness, like this music really sets up that these are foreigners coming into a new land, and they are seeing something wondrous, even if they don't realize it.
Yeah, we're gonna show you something wondrous right now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
I think that idyllic nature is inherent in the music. I wouldn't say, because I felt that too, and I don't play old Japanese RPGs.
Do you know who did the score?
not sure.
Let me see if I have it here. Oh, okay, yeah, Carter Burwell. So props to him.
Yeah,
Props to him. He does a great job, and he goes through a bit of a change in the score near the end on the final third of the movie. It goes to a more rock heavy score
during the action scenes. Yeah,
during the action scenes.
It's like almost metal
Mm-hmm.
at one point.
Yeah.
It's like heavy guitar at one point.
Yeah, it's like a hard rock kind of thing. But
Fair enough.
yeah, I thought that was really well done as well.
I'm curious, Danny, do you think that like kind of hard rock was influenced by the times? I mean, I think this film was made, what, like the late 2000s, right?
2008.
Yeah, so like rock was kind of prevalent during that time. Do you think that informed?
Oh yeah. That rock that was playing was definitely just 2000s rock.
Oh, I agree with that.
You know, that's something you just don't see today at all. In action scenes, it's no longer the case right now. The big thing today with action scenes is huge epic scores,
Tones.
Orchestral.
and big swells, orchestral, yeah, and sometimes with a little bit of electronic undertones. So yeah, it brought me back watching that scene. Like it took me out of the movie for a moment, because I was thinking back, like, oh, this is how movies used to be,
right,
for action scenes.
I mean, it reminded me more of Japanese role-playing games, where you'd have this like adventurous orchestral music whenever you enter a new town, but then the battle music is like very rock heavy. I really appreciate when a film has kind of like a central theme that it comes back to, but it plays it in different ways from time to time to kind of accentuate the scene,
called a
accentuate
motif.
the motion. Right. Is that called motif?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
In that case,
A musical motif.
fair enough. A musical motif, yeah. So I very much appreciate when films have musical motifs. I think to a movie like Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, where it was just kind of all over the place, but then they had that one musical motif that maybe wasn't used to its advantage, as you guys had put. So it's definitely can be hit or miss, but at least in this film and some of the other films I've really enjoyed, I thought it was used to the film's credit.
The biggest example in cinema is that people will recognize is Lord of the Rings.
Oh yeah.
From the first movie to the end, it's pretty much the same song, played differently, and built upon.
Wow.
Yep.
I didn't know that.
And on a personal note too, the latest EP that my band is working on, Shadow Reborn,
Plug,
is actually using a lot of motifs this time. We're going motif heavy, because we're trying to make it a more theatrical experience. So we do have these themes that kind of you'll hear like at the end of a song that you're gonna hear again in like the fourth song, for example.
Nice.
Synergy.
Corporate synergy.
Speaking to the characters a little bit, a feeling I had about them, Ken, Ray, and Harry strike me as simple people. Ken the least so. And it's not that they're stupid, but they seem to be uninterested in anything outside themselves. We gave kind of a reason for Ray, but I think it would probably hold true most of the time. Their values, moralities, and ideals are kind of set in stone. And because of the location, the character of the location, they're kind of forced to slam into these set points because of an incongruence in their code of honor. Like, they all have their code of honor that they believe to be important and sets them apart as good people despite what they do. But obviously there's no truth in that if you look into it deeply enough. So they kind of ignore it.
So that makes them simple?
No, it makes their outlook simple. They stick to a rigid code in order to label themselves as good people or not monsters.
Yeah,
you know?
even though
gotcha.
the code is very black and white, and
It doesn't hold up.
it doesn't hold up
yeah.
in many situations, and you see that throughout the film.
A lot of the comedic interactions and problems they get into is because of that conflict of morality and their code.
Right. Like for example, in the restaurant when Ray is having dinner with Chloe.
Right.
There's a part where, well, Chloe throughout the date is blowing smoke, and it's going into this Canadian couple's table, and you could see that they're getting visibly upset. And Chloe walks away, and the Canadian couple says something. Ray reacts, and eventually Ray punches the Canadian guy in the face, and this woman starts swinging a bottle at him, which his code of honor says, if anyone comes at you with a bottle,
You got to take them out.
you got to take them out.
Yeah.
Which he says earlier in the film, and he just goes for it, even though it's just like, a woman that is not gonna kill him.
Yeah, it wasn't a broken bottle.
It wasn't like it wasn't, she wasn't going for a kill or anything like that. She was just going to like.
But because he decided it, he's like, okay, that's set. I got to
Yeah.
pop her.
In my book, though, sorry, someone comes at you with a bottle. That is a deadly weapon. He's got to take the consequences. They can kill you. It's a case of it's you or him. If he come at you with his bare hands, that'd be different.
Got to do it.
Yeah.
It's like they're like robots. It's like the moment anything goes against the code, it's like we have to take action no matter what.
Yeah, so set in this idyllic location, a lot of times it forces them to start questioning these things, or at least the quiet moments kind of bring that up, and you can always tell they're very uncomfortable with it. They'll try and have a conversation about the afterlife or morality, and then they'll get into a silly conversation.
You said he was a lollipop man. He was a lollipop man. What's a lollipop man doing on fucking karate?
I'm just saying.
How old was he?
50.
What's a 50-year-old lollipop man doing on fucking karate? What was he, a Chinese lollipop man? Jesus, Ken. I'm trying to talk about. I know what you're trying to talk about. Kill the little boy. You keep bringing up fucking lollipop man.
You didn't mean to kill a little boy.
I know I didn't mean to. But because of the choices I made and the course that I put into action, the little boy isn't here anymore.
Yeah, that's interesting you say that, because they start to question it. They're still rigid on it, but then the one time that they deviate from that, that pretty much results in like their demise, right? Like Ken deviates from that. He knows what he's supposed to do according to their code is right, but he deviates from it, and then that leads to his own demise. Right?
Well, he decides there's something that's above his. Code. Yeah, exactly.
Right.
And
still a deviation.
Yeah, he realizes that just because he owes Harry for something from the past doesn't mean that he should just kill this kid who's undeserving of being murdered. He finally realizes that and pushes beyond that false sense of code and honor that they've built. I feel like Harry mostly built that to like control his people, to an extent.
Yeah, so engender loyalty in them.
To engender loyalty, even though he follows it himself.
He's a full believer, yeah.
He is a full believer as well, because at the end, he...
Gotta stick to your principles.
Yeah. Well, we'll talk about that a little later. But going back to Ray, with his dislike of Bruges and it being because he wants to get his mind off of killing the kid, I think also they made him in general very simple-minded, right? Like he's not really... He doesn't really have any worldly concerns or views or anything like that. Like all he really knows is how to kill people apparently, and like drink.
Yeah. He's definitely a live in the moment type of person.
And very like childlike. And he doesn't really think of others much at all. He's very into himself.
Yeah. At one point he has a hissy fit inside the Basilica of the Holy Blood.
Ray, did we not agree that if I let you go on your date tonight, we do the things I wanted to do today?
We are doing the things that you wanted to do today.
And I would do them without you throwing a fucking moody like some 5-year-old who's dropped all his sweets.
I didn't agree to that.
It's interesting you bring up that church scene. Ray, I feel like is more antsy in the church than at any point he is walking around the rest of Bruges. And then immediately after that, they go to this museum and they're looking at a painting. And the painting is, I don't really know how to describe it. Basically, it's supposed to showcase the apocalypse or some
Judgment
artist, some artist's rendition of the apocalypse. And they bring up Purgatory. You guys are talking about Ray being kind of simple and, you know, not very, he's like very in the moment. You know, I think that's speaks to seemingly his lot in life at this moment where he's just kind of wandering, and Bruges is almost like purgatory for him. And he is just kind of listless at this point. Like, he's trying to look for any vice from his quote unquote like old life that could comfort him. But because he's in this foreign place, because, you know, he's so guilt ridden, like this is basically his purgatory.
I thought the narration, the beginning and the end, really played to that idea that he was in purgatory. Did that feel intentional to you? Like he's trapped in this location?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Going back to the video game analogy, I feel like this movie utilized shortcuts for quick setups, almost like a hub system. So, for an example, as the characters and plot are unfolding, we keep going back to a few central locations. There's the hotel room, the train station, and the plaza in front of the bell tower. This is used for several strategies, instant jokes in the form of extreme imagery in familiar locations. The action set pieces are easy to follow because we've been through here many times. And our characters are moving through these locations time and time again in a familiar manner. Daytime adventure, nighttime adventure, dark, back to the hotel. So it almost puts the audience at ease and kind of tricks us into letting our guard down, to drop our guard for the joke setups or for the horror or sad scenes. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I especially noticed that when during the day they go visit that bell tower, and how that coincides with the final scene, or one of the final scenes where Ken and Harry are at the top and they're making amends and all, you know, that whole final location. It really allows you to know where everything is at, like where Ray is at the same time in the little cafe, you know, and where they are in perspective to each other.
Yeah, it adds some tension.
Yeah, it does. One little issue that I had with that scene, though, Ken's death, you know, he jumps off the bell tower.
Mm-hmm. Why does he do it?
Why? Because so Harry finds out that Ray is alive. The whole point that Harry went over there was because Ken did not assassinate Ray. He goes over there to kill Ken. While he's over there, he finds out that Ray is actually back in Bruges because he failed at escaping.
Hilariously.
Yeah, because the guy that he punched earlier in the movie, the Canadian guy who he thought was American.
You heed the Canadian.
Huh?
You heed the Canadian.
I heat the Canadian.
That's him. That's the motherfucker.
You heed the Canadian. Yeah.
Canadian.
Shit. He spots him in the train and they take him back to Bruges.
Yeah.
So when Harry finds out, he starts fighting Ken because Ken's trying to protect Ray. Ken loses that battle. He gets shot in the neck, and then Harry goes off to kill Ray.
Okay.
Ken is still alive, so he decides to try and go up to the tower and shoot Harry as he tries to assassinate Ray.
You think that's what he was going to do?
Yes.
Yeah, definitely.
Because it's actually pointed out earlier in the film.
Foreshadowing.
It's foreshadowed, yeah, because when they go and visit this tower in the beginning, he goes up and Ray stays downstairs. Mm-hmm. And while Ken is up there, he pretends with his fingers, like he does finger guns.
Yeah.
And he points at Harry and he does like a fake.
Ray.
At Ray, and he does like a fake shot. So that foreshadows that later scene, which I thought was beautiful.
Okay.
But when he gets up there and he looks down, it's a foggy day, unfortunately. He cannot see anything. So he scrambles to think of some kind of way to save Ray. And, well, he's already dying, he felt. So he was like, let me just jump, make a scene to get Ray's attention so that he can, you know, notice Harry and run away.
I like that he dropped the coins to let bystanders scatter.
Oh, yeah, that was a great idea. So back to, like, my issue with that. I felt like you could have equally had the same impact if you just fired your gun into the air.
Well,
and made people scatter, because he wasn't that high up.
Well, the sound probably wouldn't travel because it is pretty high up based off of like the American couple earlier saying that they had a heart attack.
The gunshot would have traveled.
No, it would have definitely.
No, but here's the thing. Nobody heard it downstairs. There were at least 2 shots that happened up there. Well, like Harry shot Ken in the leg. Nobody heard it. Everyone's going about their business.
But that was in the staircase.
No, it wasn't. It was up top. No. When Ken gets shot.
Oh, he's
in the
right. He does
neck.
get shot twice.
Oh, he shoots him in the leg.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say that means people didn't hear it. They probably heard it, but that doesn't necessarily mean scatter. Which is which is why I don't think that was a good strategy to just shoot in the air.
Well, I guess for the sake of the film,
Like, I don't think they would have recognized
they
sound,
they made it. They already put it in the world that they wouldn't hear it. I guess because he got shot in the leg, and there was no there's people still sitting in the cafe down there. If they heard a gunshot, there wouldn't be anyone at the restaurant. You know what I'm saying?
Well, let's say that was a few minutes earlier. I don't know. Just gunshots going off in distance doesn't necessarily scatter a city. I don't know. I found that scene to be really heroic, though.
Oh, for sure.
For sure, yeah.
First of all, they completely switch up the music there, which worked fantastically. It's like some Irish dig, some Irish
jig.
Yeah, some Irish jig that's very somber and sad and a little bit hopeful. Completely changes the tone of the scene. And then, from what we've learned about the character, I get the feeling that Ken is getting to save the son he never had because they had a very much father-son dynamic. And on top of that, even though he doesn't know if there's an afterlife, I think he's hopeful. And so he's saying, let me do two things here. I can save my son, my surrogate son, and possibly meet my wife in the afterlife, because we find out earlier she'd been killed. First time I'd seen it, this is the second time I watched it. It was a very depressing scene to me, but this time it felt a lot more hopeful with those things in mind.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, it reminded me of like the heroic sacrifice that Father Damien did in The Exorcist. Actually, very similar in thought, where a loved one has passed, and he's really heartbroken over it, and kind of wants to see them again.
Right.
So he makes a sacrifice.
One last great deed with what I have left of my life.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And speaking of the jump itself, I thought it was very well shot. It was very gruesome. They actually show the drop and the splatter.
Pretty damn realistic.
Yeah.
That was
very,
hard to watch,
very realistic. Very well executed. I think one little thing that takes away from the scene is, Ray runs up to to him, and he's still alive. Which, oh my gosh, that was like
that was insane.
That was insane to watch. And he could still talk. And he says with his with his final moments, he's like, "Take my gun," and that Harry's there, which I thought was beautiful. But then after he grabs the gun, it's broken. I don't know. I didn't like that Ray asked him like, "Where's my gun?" Like he was trying to like get more out of Harry, and Harry was like just there in his final.
Or Ken.
I mean, sorry, Ken was in his final moments. What did you guys think of that?
That didn't bother me. He was still crying, but that's just survival instinct.
Yeah. I don't know. I felt like put off, like, you insensitive bastard.
I get what you're saying.
Go figure it out your damn self. This guy already did his part. And you're just there like, you broke the gun. Where's the other gun? Kind of mentality.
Yeah, again, he's a bit selfish, too. Like, he's showcased to be selfish, so
that's true.
I could buy that.
It didn't seem like he wasn't broken up about it.
No, he was for sure broken up. I just think it just took away a little from the scene. Like maybe it was purposely like that. Maybe that was you were supposed to get a little angry at him potentially, like you moron.
Yeah.
why are you asking him questions and he's like about to die?
I would think that more concretely if after Ray gets to the hotel and he sees Ken's last will and testament, he just kind of looks at it. I wish we could have just gotten a scene where, like, at the very least, he just grabs it, takes it with him, because then I would think like, okay, he cares about him more. Because like right now, as Alejandro said, very much in survival mode. I wish at some point we could have at least like gotten a hint that would have been read or something. Because otherwise, right now we don't know what his thoughts are.
No, he doesn't have much time to grieve.
Yeah.
So. Oh yeah. He had no time to really pick that up or whatever. He was running from Harry, so he was still in survival mode even at the bed and breakfast.
No, but I'm with you. It would have been nice to see him grab the letter and put it in his jacket or something.
Yeah, then it gets all shut up.
Right. He tries to read it on his deathbed.
It's all bloodied and shot up. He's like,
final joke.
I can't understand a lick of this.
What did you guys think of Jimmy the Midget's character?
Wow, hard turn.
The dwarf, you mean?
Well, yeah, it depends on which midget you ask. This one likes to be called a dwarf. I think normally they don't like to be called dwarves because there's a magical creature a magical creature connotation there.
I always thought they like to be called little person, but I thought that's like the current vernacular now.
Well, I thought that was the PC vernacular, but I don't know. I have never met a midget, so I don't know if they actually like being called little people. I wouldn't want to be.
I'm not sure, to be honest. Yeah,
I would just say, hey, just call me that guy. You know, like why
short arse, like they say in the movie.
Yeah, I'd rather be called that.
Or just like no reference to his height. You know, I'm sure he's like, just call me by my name. You know my name. That's it.
Right. Sit up on this chair and have no problem, normal person. Like that.
Oh my gosh, you ableist.
No, midgets can do whatever they want.
So I feel like that character was pretty much there just to set up that final scene.
He's a plot point.
He's just, I mean, and a source of good comedic moments, because not only is he, I mean, he's a racist dwarf for one. I mean,
a virulent
big time
racist.
Well, I have
and a drug abuser.
I actually agree that he was probably created to set up this this continuity with the child getting shot in the beginning, right? That was probably the imagery they had in mind. Like, how do we reincorporate that? And then maybe they created the midget character. But I actually love Jimmy as a character. I thought he was so great. He could have been the protagonist. You know, he's written like a real person. He's fully realized. And there's these seeming contradictions, which I don't think are actually contradictions in real people. He's completely non-judgmental, but then also a blatant racist, polite but short-tempered, great sense of humor but can't laugh at himself, and he's also kind of brutally honest. So as a character, I thought he was beautifully written and super entertaining to watch.
Yeah,
like, his lines were always on point.
Yeah, no, it's true. He really was. It was always fun when he was on screen.
Why didn't you wave hello to me today when I waved hello to you today?
I was on a very strong first tranquilizer today. Wasn't waving hello to anybody. Except maybe to a horse.
What are you talking about?
Just horse shit.
Would you ever think about killing yourself because you're a midget?
Fuck, man. What kind of question is that?
Just chatting, Harry.
It's gonna be a war, man. I could see it. It's gonna be a war between the blacks and between the whites. This ain't gonna be a war where you pick your side. Your side's already picked for you.
There's going to be a war between all the blacks and all the whites. And all the black midgets and all the white midgets, which would actually be really good.
That's just cocaine.
He didn't even want the Vietnamese on his side.
That's just cocaine.
I thought it was great that they created a character that was probably, like you guys said, only there to serve a purpose, and then fully realized him. Now, he didn't have to have all those intricacies.
Oh yeah, in a lesser film, he definitely would have just been like a couple scenes here and there that they met in the beginning and then they see at the end. Like, that would have basically been his like contribution to the film. But yeah, I like that they actually gave him some personality and some like character moments, even if they weren't all great to actually listen to.
No, yeah, not a perfect person, but
yeah,
as a character, awesome.
For sure.
It's so interesting, like how even in the end, the final dramatic moment, they still sprinkle in that comedy into it, you know, because so in the final scene, you know, he's Harry finally catches up to Ray, starts shooting him down. Ray falls to the ground, and then he sees that he accidentally shot
Jimmy
in the head with an explosive round.
Dum-dums.
With dum-dums.
Oh, I also have some dum-dums. You use this word, dum-dums? The bullets that make the head explode?
Dum-dums, yeah.
Would you like some of these dum-dums?
Yeah.
Which ended up being his demise. Because he blew his head off, and he was wearing, so he's an actor.
Right.
So Jimmy's an actor. So he was doing like a scene where he had to dress up like a school child, and he blew Jimmy's head off. So he just looked like a kid. So he thought he killed the kid, and he freaking, because of his principles, he blows his own head off.
If I had killed a little kid, accidentally or otherwise, I wouldn't have thought twice. I'd have killed myself on the fucking spot. On the fucking spot. I'd have stuck the gun in my mouth on the fucking spot.
I have something that I'm not sure if I liked or not in that. Where, since we're talking about the ending now, it seemed like Ray was trying to warn Harry that it wasn't a kid. Why?
Why? Because that's that static right and wrong attitude.
Yeah.
It was wrong for him. He still didn't want him to kill himself because he was not being attacked out of hatred. It was out of a code.
It was the code of honor.
But they didn't hate each other.
Okay.
So they still like respected each other to an extent. Like even at the bed and breakfast, they were like still making promises to each other. Hey, let's not kill this, let's not potentially harm this pregnant woman.
He doesn't take a risky shot that could have saved him.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'll jump out the window and swim and I'll give you a chance to shoot me. It's like this weird code that these guys are going through.
That they, I guess, have to have in order to justify their lifestyle.
Yeah, exactly. So he tries to warn him, but he's already too shot up. And that's that.
I read it a little differently. I read it as he didn't want someone else to hold on to the same guilt that he had for actually killing a kid.
Well, no, he was going to kill himself. He wasn't going to hold on to any guilt.
Well, but like he held, no. What I mean is like to feel guilty for something like that, to experience the same level of guilt as he did, even momentarily, as Harry did. Like I thought of it less as like he was trying to be honorable to Harry, and more so like I know what it feels like to experience this guilt. I don't want anyone else. I don't want anyone else to.
That's a lot of thought for that moment.
Yeah. I more feel like that was the comedic part of that moment where it was like, no, Harry, hold on, you didn't actually break the code. Like you don't have to do it, but he couldn't say it, and he's like, I broke the code. Boom, shot himself.
I bet you if he didn't actually say those words out loud, he wouldn't have felt obligated to do it.
Yep.
He's like, I said it.
Oh, do you think Harry's the kind of guy that only if it's been made aware that he'll actually follow through with it, as opposed to him actually holding that principle?
Because it was never a hard and fast rule. It's something that he proclaimed as his moral compass.
Yeah.
So he's like, this, I have to go by my code. Yeah.
Oh, sure. I guess what I'm saying is like he held those beliefs anyways, as opposed to him posturing to Ken and then feeling like, well, I said it, I guess I got to hold myself to it.
He held those beliefs, but it helps to justify. Yeah.
It was like reinforced by the fact that he pridefully said that. He's a man of code and pride, at the same time. So he wouldn't.
Well, he's always trying to put himself in the best light. He's a little bit of a narcissist as well. An example of this is in the hotel room when he's talking to Ken. He's pretty much strong-arming Ken into telling him that Ray is having a wonderful time. Like, he clearly wasn't, but then he keeps pushing him to say that narrative. What do you mean he's not having a wonderful time? This magical land with the boats and the rivers. What the fuck do you mean? Bruges is a fairy tale land. He strong-arms him into telling him that Ray's having this wonderful time. Why? So that he could feel okay about ordering his assassination. That comes after. So yes, he has this code and everything, but he's also a bit of a narcissist, and he needs to see himself in that positive light.
Yeah.
That's that's true.
I would agree with that. Yeah, he's definitely, I mean, if for no other reason, like, he chose the area because that was the one vacation spot that he actually enjoyed in his own life, in his whole life.
And not considering Ray's personality and what he would like.
Oh, yeah, no, it's like,
at all.
It's like, I loved it, so you would love it too, right?
Right.
Obviously.
No, there's no other possibility. You have to.
Yes.
It's a fucking fairy tale land.
Yes. Yes, indeed. He's a man of contradictions, like all of them, to be fair, but him especially.
I think a big filmmaking lesson people can take from this movie is to throw people off kilter sometimes, drop their guard by showing them something horrible in order to get them to laugh or cry. People, have their guards up when they're watching a movie. They're telling themselves this isn't real, or they're looking for the setups, and sometimes you just need to shock them out of that, which I think he does fantastically.
Oh, yeah, definitely. It just feels like this wild ride that you have no idea where it's going to go. It's definitely not a movie that you can predict too easily, I'd say. There's no one that would say at the very end, oh, I knew this was going to happen. Like, it was obvious.
Well, when I saw Jimmy walking around with a schoolboy outfit, I kind of saw it coming then, but not earlier, to be fair.
Oh, you really thought that he was going to get shot and that whole scene was going to happen?
For sure.
As soon as he enters the actual filming location and Jimmy's walking around in a schoolboy outfit, yeah.
I actually didn't think of that.
Yeah, because he goes up to them and they're laughing at him.
Right, yeah.
So they're like, what's that for? He's like, oh, it's for my film. I'm dressed up as a schoolboy. And he emphasized boy. I'm like, oh, here we go. Oh, boy. That's going to come back.
Yeah. But that's a short-term prediction. That's like 5 minutes earlier. It's not... Yeah, I didn't predict any of that from the beginning.
I guess I've seen enough films of this like where you have people in professions like this, like an assassin or whatever, where 99% of the time they're going to die. Anytime you're in a horrible profession, despite like a character's want to, achieve forgiveness or whatever you want to call it, they still end up dying. So it's like, at the very least, I could say they're probably all gonna die, or most of them are gonna die. But beyond that, I had no idea it would happen in the way that it did.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Speaking to what you guys thought about Jimmy, about his racism and how that colored his your imagery of him, I found a lot of the characters' language to be pretty intense, and however, I always found it easy to step back and kind of laugh at it, because it never feels like it's the writers writing their sensibility, which is why it makes it easy to hear horrible things and still laugh at it and not take it too seriously, because these are people in their world. It's a reflection of how they were brought up, their tight-knit community, their aloneness, and their kind of image of everybody else as kind of sheep, Even when Ray is dealing with this drug dealer girl who robs people for a living, that doesn't even register for him. Doesn't matter. It's them, and everybody else is civilians.
Is that what you meant by other people being sheep?
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
He doesn't even care about that. Yeah, he's just like...
No, he's a contract killer. That doesn't even register as dangerous.
Yeah, no, he's more worried about or bothered by the fact that Chloe didn't really like him.
Exactly.
He's like, oh, so you just didn't like me. That's it. Instead of worrying about the guy with the knife on the other side. Yeah, it helped. Definitely the way it was written helped me kind of like... It transported me away from like the real world. I wasn't really like grabbing what they were saying and just being like, oh, well, that's racist. Like it's just, that's what those characters would say in that universe, you know, and it's necessary. It felt necessary for the film. It felt necessary for these characters.
I would say it's like making a movie about 90s kids and having them never use the word gay. That's their language. It wouldn't feel realistic.
Sure. Exactly.
Yeah.
And speaking of that, I have a little... Did you know about that? About their language.
Did you know?
So you done? You done there?
No.
So
we're keeping all this in.
So the word fuck and its derivatives are said 126 times.
What the fuck are you talking about?
In this 107-minute film. An average of 1.18 fucks per minute.
Damn, that's a lot.
Yep. So now
probably 50% of that is Harry.
Oh yeah, or more.
I mean, he goes off on some tirades.
Yeah,
it's great. Mostly between Harry and Ray. Just both of them probably made up like 85% of the fucks in this movie.
Speaking of Harry, he's a real huge cunt, isn't he?
Oh yeah.
Oh, do tell. I know what line you're gonna say. Do tell.
No, I actually don't have a specific line. What about you? Is there a specific Harry line you like?
That I don't want to say it. I enjoyed them all, but I don't feel the need to say them. By all means, if you want to say
it.
Which one?
Say it.
No,
it's not a reflection of your beliefs.
No, when Ken insults Harry and his kids, and basically Harry's saying to retract that, and then they just repeat each other. I retract that. Thank you for retracting that.
Okay, I got it. Let me see if I can remember the exact lines.
I thought that's where you were going with that.
But. No. I'll bring that up though. Harry is talking to Ken, and Ken is saying, the boy needs to have another chance. He has the capacity to change.
Excuse me, Ken. I have the capacity to change.
Yeah, you have the capacity to change. You have the capacity to become a bigger cunt. You're a cunt now. You've always been a cunt. And the only thing that's going to change is you're going to become a bigger cunt. Maybe have some more cunt kids.
Leave my kids fucking out of it. What have they done? You fucking retract that bit about my cunt fucking kids.
I retract that about your fucking cunt kids.
That was beautiful.
Yeah.
And, well, I guess I'll throw in another did you know while we're at it. Coincidentally, there are actually 5 actors in this film who are in the Harry Potter series.
Okay, so it's Harry, Ken, also Ray.
Yep.
And then is it the hotel owner? She in there?
No. So it's Harry, Ken, Ray.
The priest?
The priest.
Oh, nice.
And Chloe.
Who's Chloe?
She's in the Goblet of Fire. She's one of the characters from the other school, the French school.
Yeah, she's a Hufflepuff, right? She's a Hufflepuff girl.
No, she's you know how in the 5th, I think it's the 5th, Goblet of Fire.
Okay.
It's like different schools go to compete.
I saw it once in theaters.
Okay. Well, there's one school of like just women wizards,
Gotcha.
and they're like French, like this French school. She's one of them.
Okay, got it.
I think she's actually one of the people competing.
She's the main one. Yeah,
Yeah,
she had like a sister in it.
Yes.
Yeah, Harry saves her from drowning.
Mhm.
Yeah.
We touched on it earlier, but something I'd like to bring up as something that I enjoyed very much was Ray's manifestation of depression. He's not tripping over himself in a mental stupor.
That's a callback.
That's a callback. He's not walking in front of traffic. He's incredulous, restless, and impulsive, which is what we talked about before. He's trying to distract himself from sitting with his thoughts. And then it was not a surprise to me. I like that they made him suicidal the day after he takes cocaine, which is a dopaminergic drug, and it's going to put you in a depressive state after you take it.
Yeah.
So he takes that to try and like take away his emotions, and then the next day he's completely in shambles. He can no longer block out the thoughts. He's in a depressive state.
Yeah, it's very accurate for sure on what that drug can do.
Yeah, and how it may look like to somebody who's in that state. And they're not necessarily moping around all the time. They're trying to keep their mind active.
Yeah, it's definitely a very real depiction of a form, I guess, of depression, or a form of trying to
he's depressed.
Turn your depression around. You know, not everyone's just gonna
or coping.
accept.
Maybe that's the word you're looking
right?
for.
Exactly. Yeah, a different coping mechanism.
After he gets to the park,
Which a children's park, by the way, of all places to want to do that.
Yeah, he's
Bad
thinking about
choice.
something.
Yeah, bad choice, my friend.
No, he wasn't thinking about how it looked. No, definitely not. Ken walks up behind him, ready to blow his brains out because of Harry's orders, and then sees these names. And then sees Ray about to off himself and stops him, right? He stops him.
Mm-hmm.
Ray turns around and sees the gun in his hand. What the fuck are you doing? Nothing. Nothing.
So
that was beautiful.
That's another instance of this kind of false sense of code, right? Like, because it was within the code
to shoot him,
but it was like kind of against their own code to commit suicide. So, so he felt like conflicted. Which part of the code should I try to do here? Like, this guy's gonna kill himself and go to hell.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if they believe in that, but in the end, Harry's fatherly instincts took over. That's the part that that won out.
Right.
He was gonna shoot him. I think he absolutely was going to go through with it.
For sure.
The way he walked up, you're like, he's done for.
When he tries to explain that to Harry, I thought that was really hilarious.
What did he say?
Oh man, I don't know. Like,
well, he basically just says, "Yeah, he was in the park. Why was he in the park? Oh, to shoot himself."
He's like,
you mean like he would have solved all of our problems and his own problem if he had just gone through with it and you stopped him?
Yeah, it would have solved my problem, which would have solved your problem.
And his own problem, by the way.
Not only did you not kill him, you stopped him from killing himself.
This just keeps getting fucking worse.
Yeah, it was definitely a lot.
Let me see if I got another funny. When Harry completely belittles that thug that Ray stitched up.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. He walks in with the guy with the one eye. He goes, aye, aye. Gives him a little captain salute. It sounds like it was entirely fucking your fault.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that.
I was, even before he was saying that, I was in complete, that was my mindset too with it.
For
it's
sure.
like, why are you so pissed off at this guy? You tried to rob him, and then you tried to murder him. You just failed at doing what you were trying to do. What's your deal, bro? Like, just go home, accept your defeat, and that's it. Don't be such a cunt.
Well, I think he was still in love with his girlfriend. I had a big part to do with it.
Was it his girlfriend really though?
Well, yeah, she says he was my ex-boyfriend.
Oh,
we broke up.
Right.
But obviously, he was still hung up on her.
That's right.
Yeah.
Speaking of Chloe, we really didn't talk about her as a character too much. What did you guys think overall about her?
She played her part.
She was just kind of there.
Yeah.
Like, she was definitely a siren for Ray, and kind of grounded him for a bit, at least. But beyond that, she doesn't really showcase any kind of growth or anything like that. She's just kind of driving his journey along a little bit. So that's about it.
She also gives Ray, I guess, something else to look forward to, something else, another reason to live.
Yeah, he's got a future
as well, because he starts, by the end falling for her.
Mm-hmm.
I liked the little bit of chemistry that they had. Like, she almost...
Yeah, the chemistry was great.
She appreciated his boldness, even if it wasn't very PC, And I think she found it to be kind of refreshing to what she's used to. Like, she would be shocked at first, but then she'd kind of smile and then laugh about it. And I thought
it's more in tune with her world, right? She thought he was just a tourist at first.
Oh, true.
True. What I think actually made her fall in love with him was when, her ex-boyfriend attempts to rob him, and he finds out she's a drug dealer and a robber, and his reaction is that, oh, I knew a nice person like you would never like me.
That's right.
The look in her eyes, all of a sudden, now she can be honest with somebody and still be looked at as a good person.
Right.
Where else are you going to find that except with
true.
a contract killer?
That is so true. That was a beautiful moment.
Yeah.
Yeah. She found someone that could just look past everything else about her and look at a deeper side.
A nice person.
And she just, she lit up. Her smile lit up. And yeah, that was beautiful.
Yeah, so I liked her character.
So let's jump to the ending, right? So after Harry kills himself, we see Ray being carried off on a stretcher and getting put into an ambulance. Do you guys think he survived, or did he die from that? Or did they just leave it open?
It's definitely intentionally vague. You know, his last words are, "I hope I live."
Well, he actually said, "I had hoped I would
he did
live.
say that. Yeah.
I had hoped I would live."
Which implies he dies.
No.
No?
Because, no, not necessarily, because he's saying, I had hoped I would live in that moment. That's what I was thinking in that moment.
Right.
So it's still kind of vague, even then.
I think overall, it leans towards a hopeful movie, so I'm going to say he lived.
I'd like to say that as well.
Normally, I'm the optimist, but I would say probably not. I mean, he's already in purgatory, and usually the reason you're in purgatory, if I understand correctly, is it's like an in-between world.
Religious scholars, let us know.
Well, it's an emotional purgatory. You know, he wasn't physically in purgatory, and you could say now he's going into an emotional heaven.
Well, I think Sean's saying that's the theme. You know, the theme is purgatory, so it kind of leans towards he died.
Yeah, because like he's leaving purgatory.
Oh, I see.
Whether it means he's going to heaven or hell,
but
you
could interpret
of that.
You could interpret it as an emotional heaven or hell,
definitely,
as well. So he could be moving on to the next part of his life, the transformative.
Just like Bruges is an emotional purgatory.
Exactly. Now he's moving on to, you know, he's gonna heal and he's gonna change his life, change his ways. Maybe. I mean, you could look at it that way. I'd like to see it that way. I like the characters enough.
Yeah, definitely a lot of interpretations for sure.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Let's get to scores.
Yeah, let's do it.
Ooh, right. I usually start, so why don't you start?
Okay. I'll go first.
I'll go next.
All right, so I'm going to give this a 8.5 out of 10. I thought it was very beautifully written, a lot of great narrative setups, very creative and smart movie. I love the dark comedy in it, and everything just worked really well. The pacing was great as well. Yeah, and Colin Farrell and Gleason, right? What was it? What's his
Brendan
name?
Gleason.
Brendan Gleason, man, they did a fantastic. Just their acting.
Do you like Colin now?
Oh yeah, I was gonna say in the very beginning of the podcast, I'm gonna say, I finally watched In Bruges because Alejandro has been trying to get me to see this movie for years now, on and off, obviously, and he doesn't like call me every day like In Bruges. But yeah, finally, and actually, I'm starting to like Colin now.
We got to check out the Banshees of Inisherin, their latest movie.
Okay.
It's director's latest movie.
Which reunites Colin Farrell and Brendan Gleeson.
Yes,
That's
sir.
right. I saw like a trailer for it.
I wonder if anyone else from In Bruges is in there too.
How many more?
Oh, there might be. The hotel clerk. Not clerk, co-owner.
Yes, co-owner.
I believe she's in there.
Let's see how many Harry Potter characters are there.
Yeah, if you're listening to this and it's still in theaters, I recommend checking that out.
All right, Sean, give us your score.
I give it a 9.5 out of 10.
Boom!
What an absolute wonderful film. Such a well-acted, tightly paced film that's all about the characters. There's barely any plot to speak of, so everything that's in the film is in service of the characters, and I really appreciated that. The highest compliment I can really give to a film is I don't notice the time when I'm watching it. And I didn't notice the time whatsoever when I was watching this, so I absolutely adore this film.
Awesome. High praise. I'm going to go a 9 out of 10. Masterpiece in the genre of dark comedy. Not for children or the faint-hearted. Short and sweet, baby.
All right, and with that, next week, join us for Sideways 2004. Two middle-aged men unsatisfied with their life take a week-long road trip through California wine country. One wants to play some golf, and the other wants to get his nut. Sean, where can they find us?
I knew Sean would like that.
Nice. You can find us on Instagram and Twitter at Ardent Cinema. And if you're listening to us on your favorite podcast app, please give us a high rating, a review. And if you're listening to us on YouTube, hit the like button, click subscribe, and hit the little notify bell so you're made aware when new episodes drop every week. And with that, thank you very much for listening. Have a happy new year, everybody. And with that, we bid you adieu.
Long live the new Flash.
Happy New Year, you cheeky cunts.